Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
It's good to be here.
For a long time now, we've been tracking the architecture of Daniel Bates's world.
Yeah, the V2V ecosystem, the 11SIX movement.
Yeah.
We spent time with his inner circle.
Exactly. And we thought we had a pretty clear understanding of, the pressures he was facing, the creative demands, the financial side of running a six-figure operation.
But the source material we've compiled for this deep dive has been staggering.
It's revealed a catastrophe that was. It
Yeah.
was far deeper than we ever imagined. We're talking about court documents, personal affidavits, his own lyrical diary.
And that's really the core of what we have to illuminate today. It's this maddening contradiction.
It is.
We're looking at a stack of verifiable documents, right?
Yeah.
And they show a high six-figure earner. In 2022, Daniel Bates's total income was $170,942.
A massive professional peak.
A huge peak. And yet, just 3 years later, that entire foundation dissolves. It leads to immediate total homelessness because he can't make a mandatory debt payment of just $630 a month.
That number, that gap between $170,000 and $630, it's an impossible gap.
It just screams systemic failure.
It's genuinely difficult to rationalize. That debt payment, that was the linchpin of his whole recovery plan, and it's less than, a maintenance fee on some luxury car.
Exactly. So our mission today is to trace the complete, agonizing sequence of events.
We're going to use the documented timeline from that decade of stability all the way to the catastrophe of September 2025.
And we'll detail the bureaucratic obstacles, the alleged legal errors, and the profound human cost. Not just to him, but to the vulnerable people he was caring for.
So to really understand the speed of the fall, we have to start with the altitude of the peak.
We have to. We need to establish that foundation of stability. This wasn't some slow erosion of an already unstable life.
No, this was a rapid, extreme deviation from a very established, very structured existence.
And when we say structured, we mean rooted. The records show he maintained residency at the Preston Valley Apartments for 11 consecutive years.
11 years. In most major U.S. cities, staying in one rental for over a decade is, it's practically unheard of.
It suggests an intention, a deep desire for a rock-solid physical anchor.
And his professional life mirrored that, didn't it?
Absolutely. This wasn't a transient life. His work history shows the same commitment. We're talking long-term W-2 jobs.
What kind of roles?
9 years, 3 years, and another 11-year stint in very conventional roles. Luxury suite attendant, bartender, warehouse supervisor.
Okay, and what's critical about those jobs, especially when we get into his psychological profile, is that they demand organizational skill. A warehouse supervisor is logistics, inventory, scheduling. A bartender is cash management.
They require reliability, attention to detail, operational excellence. It's all there.
Yeah.
And it confirms what we see in the journey documents.
With a high conventional score.
Exactly. He is literally built for organized structure.
And that structure was the platform.
Yeah.
It's what allowed his creative side, his whole other life, to flourish.
Which brings us to the financial zenith, that $170,000 peak in 2022.
This wasn't just, wishful thinking or projected income. This was realized value.
Realized high value from his Carlo creative operation.
Yeah.
The revenue streams for his W-2 work gave him a stable baseline.
Great. And on top of that, you have the entrepreneurial income, the royalties from 11SIX music, the whole V2V ecosystem.
Vision to victory. It's the framework he built for artist autonomy. That peak year, 2022, it confirmed he could operate in both worlds at once.
The conventional world and the volatile creative world.
He showed this immense capacity for generation. But here's the challenge, right? Here's where that contradiction gets so stark.
Go on.
If he has this deep-seated need for structure and this capacity to earn over $170K, why was his internal financial architecture so weak?
Why no 6-month emergency fund? The thing every conventional financial advisor would tell you to build first.
That's the crucial question. And the answer, I think, lies in this sharp duality that just defines his whole existence.
Okay, so we have to contrast the stability with the volatility.
Exactly. We have to look at this grand gesture that's documented in the source material. Just 14 months before this collapse, he spends a staggering amount of money.
How much?
$37,359.22.
How much?
2 NBA Finals tickets.
Wow. That is almost a quarter of his peak annual income.
On 2 experiences, 2 ephemeral moments. This wasn't a sustainable investment.
No, it's an act of extreme financial volatility. It signals the compulsive behavior, a deep belief that the next big success is always right around the corner.
It feels like that, doesn't it? It negates the need for a conventional safety net, if you believe that.
It's a high-risk, high-reward mindset, almost a gambling-like approach to his own economy.
And it perfectly mirrors the emotional volatility we see documented in his personal writings.
So you have this man capable of a decade of stability, earning six figures, but also willing to risk a huge chunk of it for a moment of, what, peak experience.
Peak emotional and experiential triumph. And that financial risk, that duality, brings us right into the internal cracks.
The psychological architecture,
Yeah.
the thing that made him so effective in those W-2 jobs, but also so vulnerable when that income disappeared.
Exactly. Let's unpack that internal structure, because
Uh,
the journey documents are crucial here.
They provide the objective metrics, right, beyond just anecdotes.
Right. And they confirm that high score in conventional interest. That's his operational backbone. Detail, organization, structure, reliability.
That's the part of him that showed up for 11 years as a warehouse supervisor. Meticulous.
But this is the key, that strength is immediately contradicted by low scores in other areas.
Areas that you'd think would be critical for building an empire.
Right. Specifically, he scored low in social interest.
Okay, what does that mean in practical terms?
It's a profound insight into his operational stress. It means that tasks requiring massive emotional energy like team leadership, networking, social support, or providing long-term care for someone,
Which we'll get to.
they are inherently exhausting for him. They are a constant, significant drain on his system. They don't fulfill him or revitalize him.
And this connects directly to his work on V2V. That low social score is paired with a low score in what?
Enterprising interests, which is so counterintuitive for the CEO and founder of 11SXE's Music and Neon Vision Studios.
The reluctant empire builder.
He is the reluctant empire builder. That low score reveals his motivation wasn't about domination or corporate expansion. It wasn't the thrill of the deal.
It was about autonomy, self-direction, building a shield.
A fortress. A fortress for release and succession. He says it in the documentation. The plan was always to build a blueprint to protect his artists after his planned departure.
So managing the whole collective, even though it was a success, was always a psychological tax.
A huge tax, not an inspiring mission. And this fragile stability, resting on this conventional backbone, but supporting this volatile creative life, it was constantly under threat.
From his internal emotional landscape.
Yeah. The source material points specifically to a pivotal emotional failure in July 2022. It's tied to an unresolved lost love known as mercy.
July. He establishes that month in his writings as an annual emotional trigger.
He does. He writes about feeling heaven in July, this fleeting, intense moment of peace.
But then he immediately undercuts it. He says he was betting on mercy at the end of my rope.
The feeling is that any peace he finds is one that only chaos can steal. It's cyclical. His stability was always fragile because I think he acknowledged that a deep sense of conventional peace wasn't his natural state.
His existence was high pitch, high drama, long before the financial crisis hit.
Absolutely. The documents reference the bipolar Scorbia concept.
Yeah.
And he articulates that internal conflict so clearly.
Heaven in my left hand, hell on the blunt.
Exactly. He's constantly wrestling with these opposing forces. It suggests his stability was always achieved in spite of his internal wiring, not because of it.
There's that anecdote about his therapist.
Which is so telling. The emotional intensity was so extreme that his own therapist apparently believed he might be insane.
Which led Bates to quip that his therapist blocked my number, I still vent.
This isn't just about sadness. It's a high-velocity psychological state that requires massive energy just to maintain balance.
And central to how he processes all of this, to his philosophy, is his resistance to what he calls the beast.
Or the program. He sees this modern power structure, corporations, tech, social media, image, as a heavy, dark, inhuman system.
And that belief, that is what fuels his need to document his own financial ruin with such clarity.
It becomes mandatory evidence. He believes he was meant to walk through the fire and remember it, to emerge whole and tell the true, unedited story.
So his art isn't just creative expression, it's an affidavit.
An affidavit against the system that consumed him. The personal failure becomes architectural proof for the V2V map.
And this is why the collapse is so integral to his philosophy. The systemic failure he experiences, it just validates his lifelong suspicion that these structures aren't safety nets.
They're complex traps, designed for logistical paralysis.
Okay, so let's shift from that internal architecture to the external timeline, the descent.
This is where that internal fragility collides violently with the external system.
And it doesn't happen slowly, it happens suddenly.
On Thanksgiving Day, November 2024, That is the critical starting point.
He's fired from the tavern.
And that eliminates his foundational W-2 income stream. That single event triggers the entire cascade. He was unemployed until March 2025.
A 4-month gap.
A crucial 4-month gap that completely consumed whatever cash reserves he had left from that $170K peak. And the sources confirmed this immediately led to missed car payments and late rent.
And this is where the bureaucratic friction just bleeds him dry. He files for unemployment with the Texas Workforce Commission, the TWC.
He's trusting the conventional system he was designed to operate within. But the very structure that was supposed to be a safety net became a choke point.
The TWC claimed documents. They're damning, aren't they?
They are. His approved weekly benefit was $591. That money, while not massive, it would have been enough.
It would have stabilized the car and rent payments in those early months.
But the records show that during the most critical period, January and February of 2025, $0 were dispersed. Nothing.
So he's waiting, he's appealing, he's spending energy, engaging with a system that is actively denying him the lifeline he was owed.
That paralysis destroyed any attempt he made to stabilize. It forced him to pay priority debts with cash flow that just didn't exist.
The documents say the civil grind consumed a $4,000 investment.
It accelerated his ruin. The system didn't just fail to help, it actively functioned as a financial burden.
It validates his whole philosophy about the inhumanity of the beast.
He was using massive mental bandwidth just to fight for money he'd already earned, money that never came in time.
And then, compounding this delay, you have the behavior of the apartment complex itself.
The very place that had been his anchor for 11 years.
Instead of offering any grace during a documented hardship, they actively aggravated the situation.
By repeatedly having his vehicle impounded. This wasn't just minor harassment. This was systemic sabotage of his mobility and his remaining capital.
The records show instances as early as December 2023, then again in March 2024.
The black 2021 Nissan Sentra just towed away, forcing him to spend hundreds of dollars he desperately needed for rent, just to get his car back.
His ability to work, to care for his dependent, all of it tied to that car.
So each impoundment was a catastrophic liquidity event. It was a vicious cycle. The TWC delays mean he can't pay rent.
The complex uses the late rent to justify towing the car.
And the cost of getting the car back ensures he has even less for the next month's rent.
So by August 2025, he's facing insurmountable debt. The W-2 income is gone. Unemployment has failed him. The landlord is harassing him.
So he turns to the ultimate conventional legal tool. He files for Chapter 13 bankruptcy.
Okay, let's make that distinction for everyone listening. Why Chapter 13 and not Chapter 7?
Chapter 7 is liquidation. You wipe out unsecured debt, but you often give up property.
Right.
Chapter 13, which he filed with the Leinart law firm, is reorganization. He chose that path specifically to reorganize his payments and, most importantly, to save his property.
Primarily the vehicle and potentially his residency.
Right. So his filing in August 2025 is an appeal to federal protection. He affirms in court documents his equity in non-exempt property was $0.
A stark admission. He had nothing left. His goal was the fresh start protected by the federal automatic stay.
And the automatic stay is key. The moment you file, federal law imposes this temporary injunction. It stops creditors, including landlords, from all collection activity.
It's the legal shield that was supposed to buy him time.
And this is where the shield failed. This is what leads directly to the catastrophe and total loss.
The entire fragile Chapter 13 plan. His only path back. It all depended on his ability to make one payment.
One specific, crucial payment. The mandatory $630 first payment to the trustee, due September 21st, 2025.
But because he'd been financially bled dry by the TWC delays and the impoundments, he couldn't make that single relatively small payment.
The entire plan was rendered ineffective. The cash flow was gone, destroyed by bureaucratic failure months earlier.
And before that deadline even arrived, the situation comes to a head.
The sources document the forced removal on September 10th, 2025.
An alleged willful violation of the federal bankruptcy stay. The landlord should have been stopped cold by that filing.
But the eviction proceeded. And this is the moment the systemic failure goes from financial to physical. The consequences were immediate and absolute.
He's immediately homeless. Daniel Bates, his service animal, and a dependent in his care.
And wait, we have to pause here. The gravity of this. He suffered the total loss of all his personal property.
Total loss. Everything he built over 11 years. Documents, creative gear, archives, all the physical assets of V2V gone. seized, destroyed, or just made inaccessible.
The desperation is captured in his communication to his law firm the very next day, September 11th. He lays it out with stark clarity.
I have no car. Red Cross gave me some help for clothes and basics since I lost everything. I'm currently homeless.
The conventional systems, the job, unemployment, the federal court, they all failed him at the same time.
And then there's the devastating irony, the detail that makes this whole thing feel almost predestined.
2 days after he's unlawfully evicted, a massive 2-alarm accidental fire.
Caused by unattended cooking in a neighboring unit, and it makes the Preston Valley apartment uninhabitable anyway.
The universe just seemed to confirm the collapse. Even if he'd made the payment, even if the eviction had been blocked, the physical space he was fighting for was gone, reduced to an unlivable ruin.
It's an unbelievable series of events. But what really defines him isn't the collapse, it's what he prioritized in that exact moment of ruin.
His caretaking responsibilities.
At the precise moment he's homeless, stripped of everything, he's serving as the primary caretaker for Bruce Wayne Nutter.
A 67-year-old, retired, disabled man. The documents say he's terminally ill with chronic heart disease.
A condition that demands sustained, intense care.
And Bruce Nutter's financial situation just highlights the commitment required. He's on a fixed annual income of about $12,000.
There's no flexibility there. The burden of logistics, appointments, support, it all falls on the caretaker.
Now, let's connect this back to his psychological architecture. We established he scored low in social interests.
Right.
This means his sustained care for Bruce Nutter, which spanned years, was a matter of pure moral commitment, deliberate sacrifice.
It wasn't something that energized him. It was a choice that demanded massive, sustained energy reserves.
He had to constantly expend the various emotional energy he was least equipped to generate.
It makes his actions right after the collapse even more heroic. He's homeless, and his priority is not finding a place for himself.
No. It's securing safe, stable housing for Bruce Nutter, who had also been displaced by the fire and was stuck in a motel.
He's extending mercy when he was receiving none. His communications with the Red Cross, the housing applications, it was all focused on ensuring the vulnerable person in his care was stable.
It's the ultimate proof that his moral commitment just overrides his own self-preservation instinct.
And the crisis also impacts his other anchor, his 13-year-old service animal, Champ.
A senior dog who provides him with essential support. And that adds another layer of complexity to finding housing.
He writes about Champ in November. Amidst all this, he's all I got.
Champ symbolizes that vital personal anchor, the non-human loyalty he's fighting to protect.
And the compounding stress from all of this, from the caretaking and the systemic failure, it directly compromised the operational side of his life.
The operational silence.
The catastrophe just consumed the mental will required for creation.
Creative output like his, it's a function of mental and emotional stability. When all your energy is going to pure survival, the creative resources just vanish.
Which led to the most devastating operational silence we've seen from 11SIX Music, the major album planned for his November 6th birthday.
Born on the 6th bipolar Scorpio.
It's been officially canceled. Not delayed, not pushed back. Canceled.
And that cancellation is the operational evidence of the systemic stress. It's a forced silence, not an artistic choice. The demands of day-to-day survival just consumed his creative capacity.
And yet, amidst all this ruin, he is maniacally focused on maintaining the integrity of his archive.
In his view, the collapse is not a defeat. It's documentation that must survive.
He believes his music and his writings are a real-time, raw, and unfiltered lyrical diary. He's not a victim, he's a mandatory witness.
He has to emerge whole to tell the true story of the systems that failed him, without sanitizing any of the mess.
He argues that the unedited, painful reality is the only thing of lasting value, that the map he's creating for V2V has to show the landmines.
And amidst all this darkness, as of this recording, mid-December 2025, just 2 days after that crushing operational silence, there is a small, critical, tactical win.
The vehicle. The all-black Nissan Nismo Midnight Runner. The one he filed the entire Chapter 13 case to protect.
It was successfully picked up. And that vehicle is more than just transportation. It's his mobile office, it's his storage, it's the tool for his caretaking duties.
Getting the car back provides a degree of mobility and autonomy that is essential for his survival.
It's a small victory, but it demonstrates that his resistance can occasionally yield results.
However, the struggle is far from over. He has the car, but he remains without a permanent home. He's locked in a desperate search for shelter for himself, for Champ and for Bruce Nutter.
And he still faces the likely dismissal of his Chapter 13 case because of that missed $630 payment. This chapter of crisis is very much ongoing.
So what does this all mean? What we've illuminated today is a textbook, tragic example of how internal volatility, external accidents, and the relentless, inhuman grind of bureaucratic systems can just sabotage someone.
Even someone with a decade of stability and six-figure earning capacity.
It validates Daniel Bates's entire philosophy. The beast is an inhuman system.
And when you try to use the conventional pathways, unemployment, bankruptcy, they can actually accelerate your ruin if you don't have the cash reserves to absorb their intentional delays.
The collapse of Daniel Bates is not the final outcome. It's simply a devastating new chapter in his ongoing archive. His architectural vision, V2V, was always about succession.
Building a map for others to survive the system, even as he plans his own departure from it.
The entire ecosystem he built was rooted in radical freedom and loyalty, designed to keep people from disappearing.
He built the structure not to dominate it, but to release it, to ensure his artists would be protected by the blueprint, regardless of his own stability.
Daniel Bates refuses to sanitize his pain. He argues that the unedited, painful reality is the only thing of lasting value. The map must show the landmines, the legal failures, the bureaucratic traps in unflinching detail.
So the question for you to think about is this. What parts of your own messy, unedited truth are you holding back, thinking they need to be sanitized, when they are, in fact, the very blueprint for your own resilience, the most valuable map you could provide to others?
We at The Deep Dive, powered by Neon Core Media, remain ardent supporters of Daniel Bates and his vision. We are watching the story unfold in real time, and we know this is not the final word.
The map is still unfolding, and we will continue to follow it. Thank you for diving with us.